If you want to generate $1 million of revenues, you need $5 million of pipeline. So if you're a SaaS founder, you've got some revenues and you're now looking to scale to that next stage of growth, whether it's $1 million in ARR, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, whatever it may be, pipeline is the biggest thing you absolutely need to be obsessing about. Here's the big question though. Why do you need $5 million of pipeline for $1 million of business? How do you actually go about generating this much pipeline? And also, if you have a go-to-market strategy, how do you figure out if this thing's gonna scale to actually generate that much pipeline and revenues? In this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles that you absolutely need to know on how to calculate your pipeline target, how to make sure you have the right go-to-market strategy, and how do you actually go about executing on it so that you're set up for that growth. And when you watch this entire video till the end and follow these principles, you will be able to accelerate your path to that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of this channel, by the time this episode launches, we will have hit 73,000 subscribers. So my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. I remember when I first hired a VP of sales for my last company, ToutApp, she came to me and she said, TK, I'm hiring more reps, but we don't have enough pipeline. They're gonna starve. We just don't have enough pipeline to win the revenue targets that we have set for ourselves or keep these salespeople busy. Now, this was baby TK. I had just raised the Series A. I was still learning everything around go-to-market. So I snapped back at her and said, look, you are winning 20% of your deals right now. So what you really need to do is just win more deals. You have enough pipeline. That's not the problem. Now, thankfully, I had some smart mentors surrounding me. I had some smart coaches surrounding me, and they sat me down. They sat baby TK down and said, look, there's real math to this. And just because you have $1 million of pipeline doesn't mean you're gonna win $1 million of business. There's just natural laws of averages. So you need to make sure you're actually generating more pipeline. And you need to invest in making sure you're doing the right things to generate that kind of pipeline with a scalable go-to-market strategy. Fast forward that year, we actually took care of everything we were supposed to. We revamped our go-to-market strategy and we grew 300% that year. At the end of it, we raised $15 million led by Andreessen Horowitz for our Series B. So based on everything that I've learned in my journey, based on everything that I've learned about the go-to-market strategy that actually drives the right amount of pipeline and how to think about pipeline math, in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 3 principles you absolutely need to know on how to craft your go-to-market strategy and know exactly how much pipeline you need to be obsessing over so you stand a chance at hitting your revenue targets. So if you're excited to dig into principle number 1, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and let's dig right into it. So principle number 1 is to know about go-to-market math. This is what baby TK didn't know. And don't worry, you don't really need to be good at math to actually be able to do this. In fact, I failed calculus my freshman year of college and then differential equations my senior year of college. So I'm not great at math, but I know a few things and it's simple math. If you want to generate $1 million of revenue and you win 20% of the deals that your sales team or you are working on, then basically you divide the $1 million by 20% and you get 5 million. That's it. It's simple. And you might say, TK, our win rate's way higher than that. And look, if you are getting friendly deals, if you're getting referrals, if you're selling to your existing network, if you have an inbound flow going, maybe your deal sizes are actually converting at 50% or 40%. I have seen that. But on average, as you start to scale, you start to get more opportunities and your win rate actually becomes 20%, especially when it's not just you selling anymore. So 20% is basically the law of averages. And that means that in order to generate every $1 million that you want to generate in business, you need $5 million of pipeline. And that's simple math right there. Now, if you think that, hey, I actually think our win rate can be 30% or 40%, or if you're like at 10% win rates, that's okay. There are ways to fix it. What you should do is just do your own math on what your revenue target is divided by that percentage, and you'll have the pipeline number you need to hit. That's principle number 1, just to have an actual number. A lot of people don't do the math and they go about thinking, oh, we're totally gonna win all these deals. And then they realize they didn't hit their revenue target, they didn't grow, and they don't know why. And at the end of the day, it's just simple math. And that's something that I learned the hard way. Once you have the math down, you essentially have a number. In this case, you need $5 million because I want to generate another $1 million of revenue. So then comes the next step. This is principle number 2. You're like, okay, TK, how do I generate $5 million of pipeline? So these are the different ways you can actually generate pipeline. Now, I have some in blue and some in green. So let's cover the ones in blue first. The first way you can actually generate pipeline is through referrals. A lot of SaaS founders that come to work with me inside of my Go-To-Market program got their initial revenues through referrals. They worked their existing network. They hit up people that were in their ideal customer profile. They got intros, they begged, borrowed, and stealed, and they got their initial revenues. But almost always, initial referrals, when you're doing them manually and going through your network, you hit a wall because you only know so many people. Eventually, you need a much more scalable way to start generating more pipeline. So while referrals are awesome to get started and really great when you're at scale, in that middle stage where you're at 100,000 in revenues or 500,000 in revenues, referrals eventually tap out because you only know so many people and you only have so many customers. Referrals are really powerful when you are at 10 million ARR, 20 million ARR, when you have 5,000 customers. Then it starts to scale. But in the early stages, it gets things going, but then you tap out of the network that you know, which is your existing customers and your existing network. The second way you can start to generate pipeline is to do outbound. Now, ToutApp was one of the original sales engagement platforms, so we know all about outbound and mass emailing and hitting people up. Here's the problem. So does everyone else now. ToutApp started almost 10 years ago. We exited the company. Now there's 500 sales engagement tools. Everyone's mass blasting emails. Outbound broke and everyone's keen to it. So if you're just loading a list of 10,000 contacts and sending them an email sequence and expecting that it's going to generate you $5 million of pipeline, it's likely not going to. Now, outbound does work. And a lot of founders I work with, once they figure out their go-to-market strategy, they circle back to outbound. They get super tactical around it. However, the key to winning in outbound today is you have to go one-to-one instead of one-to-many. You have to go super personalized, you have to go super targeted, and you basically have to put an entire full-time human to figure out how to break into a target account. So outbound still works, but it just doesn't work at scale, kind of like referrals in the early stages. The third way you can generate pipeline is by going to events. Now, events are really awesome because if you go to a specific event, you'll meet lots of potential customers if you go to the right events. Now, at the same time, it's still a one-to-one affair because it's limited by the number of people you have at the event and the number of people that they meet. So it's not one-to-many. So you can only generate so much pipeline. So in the early days, again, events work really well. And then much later, in the later days, when you can put 5 SDRs on the floor, get a nice booth, host a dinner, go on stage and talk about your manifesto, events also work. And in that middle stage, it becomes super awkward in order to hit your $5 million number or whatever number you decided on. It's just not that scalable. So that's why I put these 3 things in blue. They are solid ways of generating pipeline, but in the early stages, when you're going for initial scale, when you're going for $1 million, $3 million, $10 million, it just doesn't scale the way you need it to. And the way you need it to is the pipeline number that you got to based on doing your go-to-market math. So there are 2 ways that do infinitely scale. They're infinitely scalable. The first one is organic social. Right now, it's one of the best ways to generate pipeline. You can go out there, you can post on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, whatever it may be, wherever your ideal customers are hanging out, and you can attract them and turn them into leads. That's one of the best ways of generating pipeline today. And the second way that you can do it is by running ads. And the beauty of this is you can go spend $1,000, throw stuff at the wall and see what ads work, or you can just take the organic social content that's working really well, turn around and give it to LinkedIn and Facebook and all the other platforms and say, hey, I know this content works. I know it generates leads. My funnel works. Please put in more people that are in my ICP, put it in front of them. And that generates even more pipeline for you. So these 2 are in green because you can essentially scale these. Referrals are limited to your existing network and your customer base. Outbound has to be one-on-one in order for it to work because mass blasting doesn't work anymore. And events are limited to the number of people you can put on the ground. So organic social and ads are 2 of the best ways to generate pipeline. Okay, so that's 2 principles right there. I have a third one for you that brings this all together. But let me pause here for a moment. Are you starting to see the power of this? Are you starting to see the power of the math? Why you need $5 million of pipeline for every $1 million of business that you want to win. Are you starting to see how there's a difference between scalable channels for your go-to-market strategy and unscalable ones? How referrals in your existing network may work in the beginning, but what got you here won't get you to the next stage when you start to look at your revenue targets and your pipeline targets out of that. Are you starting to see why there are some other channels that are infinitely scalable? They're one to many. So you can do one piece of content that does really well. You can turn around, turn into ads and say, hey, all day long, I want you to put this piece of content in front of my ideal customers and more pipeline will get generated. If you're starting to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. And honestly, so do we. We put a lot of love into these videos. Also, if you're in this stage where you're trying to figure out, TK, I have a big pipeline number, or I'm starting to tap out of my existing network and I need to figure out how to build a proper go-to-market strategy and I don't want to figure it out on my own. I want to reduce the execution risk. This is why I run my SaaS Go-to-Market coaching program. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this episode. I'll also link to it below. Let's go to principle number 3 because this is where it all comes together. Now, the title of this video is Go-to-Market Strategy, and you clicked on it, so you're likely thinking about go-to-market, but you may not be thinking about the difference between strategy versus execution. And that's principle number 3. Principle number 3 is knowing the difference between what your go-to-market strategy is and go-to-market execution is. Going in and asking for referrals in your existing network, going to an event, running an outbound campaign, posting on social, running ads are all execution pieces. You can actually load up a sales engagement tool with 10,000 emails and you can start emailing people out. You can go to an event, you can rent a booth, you can put up your logo and your signs and everything and start hanging out there to meet people. You can ask your existing customers or your existing network for referrals. However, the question is, what do I actually say? What goes on the booth? What goes on the subject line of the email? There's a distinct difference between doing those activities versus thinking about how we go about doing them. These are specific things you need to be doing. This is what I call a Broadway show. It's a consistent set of activities to generate pipeline. But how you go about them, what is your messaging, who do you target, is go-to-market strategy. And this is one of the common things that a lot of founders make a mistake on, and I did too when I first got in the game, which is why now I obsess about it. The difference between the go-to-market strategy and the go-to-market execution is how you go about your go-to-market motions. So go-to-market strategy has 2 distinct pieces. The first one is really fleshing out your ideal customer profile. And the world is a noisy place and there's more SaaS businesses than ever before. So in order to differentiate yourself in the market, you need to be targeting a specific segment of the market. It could be a specific industry, it could be a specific segment, it could be a specific type of buyer, it could be a different sales motion, it could be a 10x differentiated feature. It varies. Now everyone thinks they have an ideal customer profile until they work with me, and then I really walk them through a 29-point process to figure it out. So you really want to make sure you write it down versus just keeping it in your head. If you're just keeping it in your head, chances are you're kind of winging your strategy and your execution is going to suffer. You're going to do all those things across all those channels, but it won't quite hit. You might spend $50,000 on a booth, and then you show up there, you come away with a bunch of leads, but none of them close because your strategy was all wrong. You might have just gone to the wrong event because you didn't really know who your ideal customer profile was. The second piece of your go-to-market strategy is your manifesto. Your manifesto is your messaging, it's your positioning, it's your strategic narrative. It's how you tell the story of who you are in the market and how you differentiate from the rest of the competition. It's how you attract your ideal buyers to come into your sales process and your marketing process, your customer journey, so you can actually educate them and get them to actually trust you and then buy from you. A lot of times people send out 10,000 emails and say, look, we tried outbound, it didn't work. Or they'll hire an agency, pay them $5,000 a month to run a bunch of ads, and then they come away 3 months later with no revenue to show for it, but a lot of likes. Or you hire a fractional CMO and they charge you $25,000 a month. And for 3 months, they say, hey, we got to redo your MarTech systems because they're just not ready. And then you still have no revenue for it. Those are all execution pieces. The thing that you actually have to define first, and only the founder can really own this because it's truly part of this founder-led process, is to really define the strategy of who are we serving in our ideal customer profile and what is our differentiated message. I've worked on manifestos with both founders that are CEOs and CTOs, and I found that this type of work actually clarifies the roadmap of what you're building as well, which is super powerful. And once you have the strategy, then the execution becomes a lot clearer. This is what I call a Broadway show. This is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you can run, whether it's a referral campaign or an outbound campaign or an events campaign or organic social and ads, which are much more scalable. You actually know what to say when you meet your ideal customers. You know where to hang out because you know who your ideal customers are. You can filter for the events that are actually going to move the needle for you versus the ones that aren't. Or you may hire an ad agency and they're awesome, but you can tell them, this is my ICP, this is my messaging, this is the content that I know works, I want you to now scale it. So everything changes when you get the strategy right. And that's the third principle to make sure that you 5x your pipeline. So let's recap. Principle number 1 is you want to define your go-to-market math. Just take your win rate, divide it by your target revenue number, and you have how much pipeline you need to generate. And if your win rate is 20%, then it's $5 million for every million of revenue that you need to generate. Once you have that number, then you need to think about, well, how do we generate that pipeline? These are all the different ways. The ones in blue are the ones that are more one-to-one and they tap out. The ones in green are infinitely scalable. So you can actually scale these to generate more and more pipeline. Once you know exactly which channels you're going to operate in, before you do anything, you really need to know, what are we going to say and who do we want to target and how do we win in this channel? And that's where the strategy work comes in. You want to define your ideal customer profile. You want to define your messaging and your manifesto. And then you want to run a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that brings that message to your ideal customers on a consistent basis. And that's going to generate pipeline that converts to revenue. So now you know how to 5x your pipeline and why you need 5x pipeline coverage is what we call it in the industry to hit your revenue targets. What you may not know is, TK, how do I do all this? How do I flesh out my ideal customer profile? How do I define my messaging and get the strategy right? And then how do I pick a channel and dominate in it? How do I do organic social? How do I turn it into ads? Or if I'm going to do an event, what should my booth say? This is why I created my SaaS Go-To-Market coaching program. Inside of this program, you work with me to actually revamp your go-to-market strategy to a much more scalable one. There's 3 core pieces that we do inside of the program. The first one is we flesh out your ideal customer profile. Everyone thinks they have an ICP until they work with me. I take you through a 29-point process to actually flesh out your ideal customer profile. And it always creates real discussions, real strategic discussions like, okay, where do we play and how do we compete? Once you have your ICP, then comes the second pillar. This is your manifesto. Your manifesto is your positioning, it's your messaging, it's how we communicate what you do in the market. And I guide you through the whole process to actually build that. Once you have those 2 pieces, you have your go-to-market strategy. Then comes the execution. That's the third pillar, because strategy on its own, it's totally useless. So the third piece is your Broadway show. The Broadway show is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you can run easily without having to use complicated tools to actually bring that manifesto to your ICP on a consistent basis. You do these 3 things, you're able to revamp your go-to-market strategy to a much more scalable one, and then you're able to actually generate pipeline and accelerate revenue growth. It's an incredible program. It's my 5th year running this program. Hundreds of founders have gone through this program. We have an entire playlist of case studies on this channel of founders that have gone through it. So if you'd like to work together, just go to tkkader.com/GTM. tkkader.com/GTM. Over there, you'll get all the details on how we work together. Now, the better the fit, the better the results, which is why if you'd like to work together, all we ask is you fill out a little form and book a time with us. We'll get on a call, we'll figure out where you are, what your goals are, what's holding you back, and if it's a fit, we're off to the races right away. So just go to tkkader.com/GTM. Founders that join the program are able to revamp their go-to-market strategy and start launching their Broadway show and testing it in the market within 3 weeks of joining. And then you're able to iterate from there. And I support you through the whole process. So just go to tkkader.com/GTM for all the details. If you got value from this video, please smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Also, if you have a fellow founder, if you have a team member, if you're part of a Slack group or a WhatsApp group of other SaaS founders, please share this video with them. I want to serve as many founders as possible. I truly love this stuff. I operate my own SaaS companies. I've operated my own SaaS companies and exited them. I've coached founders for the last 5 years. I love this stuff, and this is why I create these videos. And I bring you these actionable principles from the trenches, from being in practice of these, from coaching founders who are applying these. In fact, at 5 years of doing this, I have founders that are more successful than some of the SaaS coaches that are out there, which is incredible. So I love this stuff, so please share this video with them. Also, I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. You'll get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode or inside the SaaS Go-To-Market coaching program. Take care, everybody. hair. Huh.